Hey everybody, John Skiba here from the Consumer Warrior YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to deal with one of the most controversial in all topics as it relates to debt collection lawsuits, and that is, should you avoid being served by a process server in a debt collection lawsuit? If this is your first time here to my YouTube channel, please go ahead, click subscribe, check on that bell. That way you'll be notified each week when I put out new videos that'll help you deal with your serious debt problem. All right, let's talk about debt collection lawsuits. This is something I get a lot of pushback on here on my channel and even in my practice. There's a creditor out there, someone becomes aware that they've been sued. Usually this happens because attorneys all of a sudden will start sending them letters, marketing letters saying, hey, you've been sued, there's something on the court docket, do you want us to help you out? So they'll reach out to me and they'll say, hey, look, I know this lawsuit's been filed, I can see it on the court's website, but nobody served me yet. The process server hasn't come by, the constable, the sheriff, whoever serves lawsuits in your state, they haven't come by, and I'm doing my best to avoid them, and hopefully this thing will just go away. In this video, I want to talk about why I think that's a terrible idea. This is where I get the pushback. A lot of people will say, John, if you just avoid that process server long enough, then if they can't serve you, they can't get a judgment, and that's the end of it. Here's the thing. You're not the first person they've ever sued. And so there's a way to work around this for a lot of these creditors' attorneys, for the courts. And like in Arizona, where I practice law, if they come by your house multiple times and they can never get you home, and even sometimes if they don't know if they have the right address, the court will allow them to serve you through what's called an alternative method. And in Arizona, their favorite right now is through certified mail. And so what they'll do is they'll go to the court, they'll say, hey judge, we've been by like a dozen times. They're clearly dodging us, they're not answering the door. We come there, the lights are on, we ring the doorbell, all the lights go off, you know, that kind of thing. The court will then allow them to serve you by sending you a copy certified in the mail, and then also coming and taping a copy of it to your door. Now once they do those two things, the court will count that as service, and then the clock starts ticking for you to respond. So for example, in Arizona, you have 20 days to file a written answer with the court after they do those two things. Here's where you run into trouble. And this is why I always say it's just best to accept service head on and just deal with this. You know, I talk about in the channel a lot of different ways and defenses that you have in these types of collection lawsuits. If you don't accept service and just deal with it head on, what happens is they get this alternative service order, they mail it to you, they post it to the door, the wind comes by, blows it down, you don't see it. Surprisingly, a lot of people do not check their mail that often these days, and you're not aware that the clock is now ticking for you to respond to the complaint. And by the time you're aware of it, if you even become aware of it, all of a sudden you end up with a default judgment against you, and then that's much more difficult to unwind. I can tell you in Arizona, even not too long ago, they allowed creditors, they would give them permission to serve you alternatively by posting a copy of the complaint and summons in the classified sections of a local newspaper. And they would always choose some obscure, small little newspaper in some podunk area where you never were going to get notice of it. And it just resulted in huge numbers of default judgments. And that's why they started to require them to at least mail it to you. Either way, the main thing when it comes to these debt collection lawsuits, you want to be able to deal with it head on. If you're constantly trying to avoid service, eventually they're going to get either serve you personally, or they're going to get this alternative service order, and you're going to end up with some type of default judgment, and you may not even be aware of it. And that's when the real pain starts, because you just wake up one day and your bank accounts are frozen, or your wages are being garnished, and you just don't need that. There's other defenses you have. You can put together a strong defense and just get this thing out of your life once and for all. So if you disagree with me, put it down in the comments. Inevitably will be stories where people say, hey, I dodged service and they never did come after me. Those are the exception to the rule in my experience. If you're in the state of Arizona and you have a debt collection lawsuit and you want some help, that's what I do all day long. I'd be happy to look at your situation and determine really what the best option going forward is. Thanks for watching today.